June 4, 1942. Dawn breaks over Pearl Harbor, but the harbor isn't quiet. Smoke curls from the battered deck of the USS Yorktown. Water sloshes against the hull. Deck crews move like ants over twisted metal. The air smells of oil, salt, and scorched steel. Every clang of a hammer, every shout of an officer cuts through the tension. Admiral Frank J. Fletcher paces the dock, eyes locked on the carrier that had just barely survived the Coral Sea. The Yorktown, a ship that seemed immortal to the Japanese, had taken multiple torpedo and bomb hits. Its engines sputtered, electrical lines were fried, and yet somehow, floating against all odds, it remained upright. Inside the engineering bay, Chief Petty Officer James R. Thompson wipes soot from his face. Sparks from welding torches dance like fireflies across the steel walls. You can almost hear the ship itself groaning under the strain, as if aware of its own fragility. "We have 72 hours," someone mutters, voice barely audible over the clatter. 72 hours to do the impossible, to make a ship, broken and bleeding, fight-ready again. Japanese intelligence, miles away in their command rooms, had already written the Yorktown off. Reports indicated it would be months before the carrier could sail again. They did not know the American crews were about to defy time itself. They could not imagine what was coming. Welders, electricians, carpenters, and riggers race against the clock. Each man knows a single misstep could send the ship to the bottom of the harbor. In the control room, Lieutenant Commander Edward "Ted" Maxwell studies the damaged radar and navigation systems. He snaps his fingers. "We reroute power here. We patch that line there. Every second counts." Outside, dock workers sling heavy steel plates across the deck. The sound of impact reverberates like distant cannon fire. The tension is unbearable. Every officer and sailor senses the impossible task ahead. There is no room for error. Every glance at the clock seems to mock them. Every footstep across the soaked deck echoes the question, can we actually do this? And then a faint cheer breaks out on the dock. A small section of the flight deck is restored. It's not much, but it's proof. Proof that the Yorktown will rise again. But the real test, surviving another battle, facing the Japanese fleet in Midway, is still ahead. The clock ticks. 71 hours left. 71 hours to bring a dying giant back to life. Question looms. Will the crew succeed, or will the Yorktown sink before it can even see Midway? The morning sun hits the deck, glinting off twisted steel and puddles of oil. You can feel the heat, the sweat, the urgency pressing down on every man working aboard the Yorktown. Around the ship, cranes lift damaged equipment with precision, while welders, sparks carve temporary life into the broken frame. The carrier groans under the strain, but it responds, slowly regaining some of its former strength. Chief Engineer Charles "Charlie" Morgan yells orders over the roar of machinery. "Patch the starboard engine. Bring the pumps online. Move." Men respond, gripping tools with hands raw from blisters, their faces smeared with grime and exhaustion. Every movement is choreographed chaos. Lives and the future of the Pacific Fleet hang in the balance. In the hangar bay, mechanics race against time to restore the flight deck elevators, checking cables frayed by explosions. A single miscalculation could crush a plane or worse. "Check those hydraulics again," Lieutenant James Harrington shouts, sweat stinging his eyes. The ship is a ticking bomb, but each crew member moves with the focus of someone defying fate itself. Meanwhile, Japanese commanders, thousands of miles away, plan their next strike. They assume the Yorktown is out of the fight, a sunk cost. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto and his staff operate under the belief that the Pacific is one step closer to victory. They do not know that American ingenuity and sheer grit are rewriting the rules of possibility on a dock in Pearl Harbor. Hours pass, minutes bleeding into one another. The flight deck is patched, the engines purring just enough to test. Hull damage is reinforced. Electrical circuits are rerouted. The Yorktown slowly shakes off the wounds that should have ended her. Every hammer strike, every welded joint, every shouted order feels like a heartbeat of determination, stubborn, relentless, impossible to stop. And then around the 48th hour, a moment of quiet, For a brief second, the crew stops. They look at what they've achieved. The Yorktown floats as she should. Systems are operational. The deck can launch planes again. It is not perfect. It is not unscathed, but it is alive. Admiral Fletcher surveys the scene, eyes narrowing. "We're cutting it close," he mutters. "The Japanese still believe she is dead, but in 3 hours she will sail, reborn, repaired, and ready to face the enemy." Somewhere in Tokyo, intelligence officers are smug. Somewhere in Pearl Harbor, the crew knows they are about to shatter expectations. And as the clock hits the final hour, a single thought reverberates across the docks. The impossible is about to happen. The sun dips low over Pearl Harbor, casting long shadows across the docks. You can hear the clang of metal, the hiss of steam, the shouts of men whose voices are hoarse but unwavering. The USS Yorktown is no longer a broken shell. She is a living, breathing weapon, but only just. Every weld, every patch, every restored circuit is being tested under impossible pressure. Time is running out. Lieutenant Commander Maxwell moves through the engine room, eyes darting across gauges. "Pressure's holding, but the boilers are barely stable," he mutters. Sweat drips down his brow, mixing with the soot on his face. The engines growl like an angry beast, ready to surge but still fragile. Outside, sailors lash down loose equipment, patch minor leaks, and prep the flight deck for planes that may never have a chance to take off. On the flight deck, aviation crews work furiously. Planes are checked, refueled, and armed under a sky already streaked with the colors of sunset. You can almost feel the tension as each aircraft represents a sliver of hope and the possibility of utter disaster. If the Japanese fleet finds the Yorktown before she's ready, it could mean annihilation. Meanwhile, distant Japanese radio operators intercept what they think is routine communication. Reports suggest the Yorktown is crippled. They smile, confident. Somewhere in their war rooms, officers write off the American carrier, expecting months before she will fight again. But they have no idea that American hands, fueled by determination and desperation, are defying every expectation. The clock ticks toward zero. Every man aboard the Yorktown knows that failure is not an option. Chief Petty Officer Thompson slaps a welded plate into position, sparks flying. The metal sizzling under intense heat. "Almost there," he shouts. Every face on deck is set in grim determination. Every movement is precise, practiced, a dance choreographed under the weight of urgency. And then at hour 72, exactly 3 days since the repairs began, a hush falls over the dock. Admiral Fletcher steps forward, binoculars in hand, staring down the hull. The Yorktown is ready, not perfect, not unscarred, but alive, operational, and ready to sail into the jaws of the Japanese fleet. And far across the Pacific, Japanese commanders are still blind to what is coming. They are about to witness something no one expected. Something that could change the entire course of the battle. June 7, 1942. Pre-dawn light brushes the horizon. The USS Yorktown slips from her berth, engines thrumming beneath your feet. You can feel the vibration of power restored, the heartbeat of a ship that should have been dead. Sailors move with quiet intensity, eyes scanning the horizon, minds sharp with anticipation. Every bolt, every panel, every repaired system has been tested under fire. Now the true test begins. Admiral Fletcher stands on the bridge, hands clasped behind his back, binoculars raised. "All stations report ready," he says, voice calm but charged with tension. Fighter planes taxi across the deck, their propellers slicing the morning air. Pilots strap in, double-checking instruments, feeling the weight of the coming confrontation. This is Midway, the decisive battle. The Pacific will never be the same. Meanwhile, Japanese intelligence continues to feed Admiral Yamamoto outdated reports. The Yorktown is assumed damaged beyond repair. Their fleet moves with confidence, unaware that the very ship they counted out has returned, a ghost of defiance gliding across the ocean. Every officer aboard the Yorktown knows the enemy expects them to be weak. That expectation will be their undoing. Below deck, Chief Engineer Morgan checks the last of the engine readings. Boilers holding at full capacity, he mutters. Sparks from maintenance crews flicker like lightning in the dim compartments. The ship hums, alive, ready, dangerous. Every man aboard knows the impossible has been achieved, yet fear remains. The Pacific is a vast, unforgiving expanse, and one mistake could sink them instantly. From the flight deck, you can almost see the tension in the air. Pilots glance at the horizon, feeling the weight of history pressing down. The Yorktown's repairs were nothing short of miraculous, but luck is fleeting. One torpedo, one bomb, and the miracle could vanish in seconds. And as the sun rises higher, golden light glinting off the newly repaired deck, a single thought pulses through every sailor, every pilot, every officer aboard. The Japanese will never see this coming. They are about to learn in the cruelest way possible that the Yorktown is back. Across 5,000 miles of ocean, Japanese officers sip coffee in their command rooms, confident in victory. Maps are spread across tables, torpedo strike plans marked in sharp ink. Their analysts nod, smugly discussing the destruction they believe is inevitable. The Yorktown, written off, done, a casualty of the Coral Sea, a footnote in their next operational report. And then reports begin to trickle in. Sightings of a U.S. carrier, Yorktown, moving toward Midway. At first, disbelief. The officers exchange glances. Impossible, one mutters. We sank her, says another, voice trembling. The realization spreads like wildfire. Japanese intelligence had underestimated not just a ship, but the ingenuity, courage, and relentless determination of the men who rebuilt it. Meanwhile, aboard the Yorktown, sailors sense something unspoken. They know the enemy expects them to be dead, and that knowledge, the fear it will cause across the Pacific, is almost as powerful as their own firepower. Pilots climb into their planes, engines roaring to life, propellers cutting the morning air. Each launch feels like a statement, a challenge. We are alive. You did not anticipate us. Admiral Fletcher watches as the flight deck hums with activity. Prepare to engage, he commands, eyes narrowing toward the horizon. The Japanese fleet, confident, unaware, sails straight into the trap they never imagined. Every repaired system, every patched deck plate, every bolt tightened in those 72 relentless hours is about to prove its worth. And somewhere in Tokyo, officers hastily adjust calculations, realizing the Yorktown's return changes everything. The Battle of Midway, once thought to be within their grasp, is now a gamble, and a dangerous one. The question lingers, tense and electric. Will the Japanese fleet recover from the shock, or will the Yorktown's miraculous return turn the tide of the Pacific forever? The sun is fully risen over the waters near Midway, the sky a clear, cruel blue. On the horizon, the Japanese carriers appear massive, sleek, confident, unaware that one of their greatest threats has returned from the dead. Yorktown's crew feels it in their bones. Today is the day history will remember. Every pilot, every gunner, every sailor is on edge, yet moving with precision honed by months of relentless training. The flight deck erupts as planes take off in rapid succession, Wildcats and dauntless dive bombers roaring into the sky. You can almost smell the aviation fuel, hear the pounding of propellers, feel the tension vibrating through the steel deck. Each takeoff is a heartbeat in a greater plan, a strike against an enemy who thought they were untouchable. Below deck, Chief Engineer Morgan monitors every system. Boilers roar, engines surge. Steady, he mutters. She's holding. Sparks flicker from repair patches, proof of the miraculous work done just days before. Every repaired wire, every welded plate, every jury-rigged system is being tested under the fire of real combat. And then it begins. The first bombs hit Japanese carriers. Explosions ripple across the ocean, fire and smoke curling into the sky. Japanese commanders reel in disbelief. How is this possible? The Yorktown, she was supposed to be out of action. Yet here she is, orchestrating destruction, alive and lethal. On deck, pilots return, planes damaged but still flying. Sailors work frantically to refuel, rearm, and launch again. Yorktown moves like a living weapon, responding to every threat with the efficiency of a machine and the courage of a crew who defied death itself. And as the battle rages, one truth becomes undeniable. The 72-hour repair has done more than restore a ship. It has shattered Japanese expectations, and it may have changed the course of the Pacific War forever. But in the chaos, a question looms, heavy and sharp. Can the Yorktown survive the day, or will the Japanese finally exact vengeance on this defiant giant? Smoke fills the sky over the Pacific, black and acrid, carrying the scent of burning fuel and shattered metal. The Japanese fleet reels from the first wave of attacks. Explosions rip across decks, flames leaping high, and sailors scramble in panic. And at the center of it all, the USS Yorktown moves with grim determination, a ship repaired in a race against time, now delivering punishment with deadly precision. From the bridge, Admiral Fletcher watches the battle unfold. His binoculars trace the arcs of incoming enemy planes, the flash of anti-aircraft fire. Every maneuver the Yorktown makes is calculated, each launch of dive bombers a strike in a larger strategy. Around him, the crew is a whirlwind of motion, gunners firing, engineers monitoring, sailors launching planes. The air is thick with tension, adrenaline, and the metallic tang of war. Japanese commanders, once confident in their victory, now face a nightmare. Their reports are delayed, fragmented, and contradictory. "She's back," whispers a young officer, disbelief creeping into his voice. Another shakes his head. "We thought she was sunk. How?" Panic spreads through their command as the Yorktown's planes strike again and again, crippling carriers, disrupting formations, and turning expectation into chaos. Below deck, Chief Petty Officer Thompson wipes sweat from his brow, watching gauges spike and dip with each maneuver. Every repaired system is being tested to its limits, and holding. The Yorktown hums under her crew's command, alive in a way that defies reason. She has become more than a ship. She is a symbol of ingenuity, courage, and sheer willpower against impossible odds. As the sun climbs higher, Japanese pilots regroup for a counterattack. Torpedoes streak across the water. Anti-aircraft guns roar. Every second could be the Yorktown's last. And yet, she continues to move, to strike, to defy fate. And at that moment, a chilling realization grips both sides. This ship, repaired in 72 impossible hours, may determine the fate of the Pacific. The question hangs, electrifying and raw. Can anything stop her now? Midday burns over the Pacific, the sun reflecting off waves streaked with oil and smoke. The Yorktown, scarred and battle-worn, continues to launch wave after wave of aircraft. You can almost feel the tension vibrating through the steel deck, the fear, the hope, the determination of men who accomplished the impossible just days before. Every takeoff, every bomb dropped, every strafing run is a heartbeat in the life of a ship that should have been dead. On the bridge, Admiral Fletcher's eyes scan the horizon, alert for threats. "Keep the fighters in the air," he shouts, voice cutting through the roar of the engines. Crewmen respond without hesitation, moving like clockwork, a symphony of precision under fire. Below deck, Chief Engineer Morgan monitors the engine, nodding each surge and whine. Every welded plate, every jury-rigged electrical line, every patched hull section is holding, miracles born of sweat, grit, and expertise. Japanese commanders are now in full disbelief. Reports flood in. Yorktown's planes crippled carriers, shot down fighters, and disrupted attack formations. Admiral Yamamoto and his staff stare at the intelligence boards in stunned silence. How could a ship they counted as destroyed return to the fight? Their arrogance, their assumptions, their calculations, all shattered. From the flight deck, you can see the pilots' determination mirrored in every face. They know the Yorktown's survival depends on them, and they fly with the weight of history on their shoulders. And yet, in the midst of chaos, there is a rhythm, a heartbeat that carries the crew, a silent reassurance that their ship, repaired against all odds, can endure. And then, in the distance, the flash of another bomb exploding on a Japanese carrier. Smoke billows, metal twists, the tide of battle shifting. The impossible has already happened once. Could it happen again? Could a ship rebuilt in 72 hours truly alter the course of the Pacific War? The answer hangs in the smoke-filled air, waiting for the next strike. Even as Yorktown's planes press the attack, danger is closing in. Japanese torpedo bombers streak across the sky, low and fast, engines screaming, leaving trails of fire behind. You can feel the tension on deck, every man gripping railings, eyes tracking the deadly arcs. Every anti-aircraft gun fires in unison, flashes stabbing the morning air, smoke and sparks mixing with the salty tang of the ocean. Below deck, engineers and repair crews brace for shockwaves. The patched sections groan under each near miss, rivets straining, patched wires sparking. The ship had survived Coral Sea damage, endured 72 hours of round-the-clock repairs, but now the true test is here. Can a carrier restored in such a miraculous, impossible time frame withstand the wrath of a fleet determined to sink her? Admiral Fletcher barks orders, packing the bridge. Divert power to port guns, launch fighters for cover. Every move is life or death. Sailors duck and scramble, knowing that even one mistake could send Yorktown to the depths. And yet, amid the chaos, the crew moves with precision. They've turned desperation into discipline, fear into action. The impossible repair has forged not just a ship, but a crew ready for anything. In Tokyo, Japanese commanders are frantic. Recon reports confirm it. Yorktown is fully operational. Confidence evaporates. They had counted on an easy victory, and now the balance of power is shifting mid-battle. For the first time, officers whisper that perhaps their calculations were wrong, dangerously wrong. And at the peak of the tension, torpedoes scream toward the Yorktown. The deck rocks. Anti-aircraft fire lights the sky. Sparks, explosions, smoke, and chaos. It's a living nightmare. The question presses down on every sailor, every pilot, every officer. Will the miracle of 72 hours survive this final crucible? The answer is coming, and it will leave the world stunned. The Yorktown shudders as torpedoes explode nearby, sending columns of water leaping into the sky. You can feel the deck tremble under your feet, hear the roar of anti-aircraft guns, and smell the acrid smoke of burning fuel. Every sailor moves with urgent precision, knowing the margin between survival and catastrophe is measured in inches and seconds. The ship, patched and welded in 72 relentless hours, is proving that miracles can exist in war. From the bridge, Admiral Fletcher watches the chaos, eyes scanning the horizon for the next threat. All planes report ready for second wave, he calls. The roar of engines answers him. The Yorktown is no longer just a ship. She is a symbol of resilience, determination, and the indomitable spirit of those who refuse to accept defeat. Every repaired system, every patched deck plate, every jury-rigged engine contributes to this moment, a living testament to human ingenuity under pressure. Across the Pacific, Japanese commanders are in disbelief. Their calculations, their intelligence, their assumptions, all overturned. The Yorktown, the carrier they believed destroyed, now dominates the battlefield. Panic spreads through their fleet as wave after wave of American aircraft strikes with devastating precision. What was thought impossible has happened. A ship rebuilt in 3 days has changed the course of history. Back on deck, Chief Petty Officer Thompson wipes soot from his face, watching planes climb into the sky. He feels a quiet pride, the weight of exhaustion and the adrenaline of survival all at once. Around him, the crew moves seamlessly, a living machine of courage and skill. And as bombs and bullets fly, the Yorktown holds, unwavering, relentless, alive. And as the sun dips toward the horizon, the Pacific is left with one undeniable truth. The Japanese never expected her return, and they may never recover from the shock. The Yorktown's 72-hour resurrection is no longer just a repair. It is legend.